Okay, hi everybody. So what we got going on here today is our N14 has got a fuel leak coming from the heads, and you can see, if you look at the back of the motor where it has been leaking down, running along the bottom of the head gasket, along the block, and then draining out the back and washing away all the dirt on the block. So what that leak is, most likely, is the crossover fuel lines going from the individual heads one to the other. Now, according to Cummins in the workbook, you got to take the heads off, take all your jake brake rockers off to get down to these crossovers, and obviously it's a major surgery in changing the heads just to get to these leaky crossovers. However, there is a way that we can do it in a relatively short time, and of course a much cheaper way, and you can pretty much do it yourself if you've got a few tools enabling you to get to it. So if we just have a look down here between the heads, you'll see the crossover that we're talking about that's leaking. We can get a light down there. And you see those little pipes looping over. Not much of a good zoom there, but there is actually enough room to be able to undo them and pull them out through this small gap between the head. Now, it takes a bit of wiggling around, but we can do it. So we're just going to clean it out first of all, get rid of all the excessive dirt down there so we don't have any loose stuff fall down through into the fuel line section, and then we'll see how we go getting it out. Okay, so we spent a bit of time just cleaning out all the rubbish that is jammed down here in between, so it's all no grit or anything, because once we take them screws out and lift the crossover off, we don't want any rubbish falling down into the fuel line. So let's see if we can undo the screws and get it out of there. Crack the screws loose, and now we just got to lift them on out. You can do it a couple of ways. I've got a magnetic screwdriver that's happy to pull them on out, or you can just use a magnetic grabber tool and that will do the same job. Okay, so we got all our screws out and we're ready to lift it out. What I've found is the easiest way, I've just made a bit of a hook here off of an old welding rod. If you roll it towards the front, then it becomes narrower. So then you can now hook into the hole, or get a pair of long nose pliers and just push it on out. And all going well. A little bit tricky on this last bit. Run the wide bit, and there we go. So now we got to clean it up, make sure it's all smooth, and one of the O-rings already out there, and then we'll go through and clean it back up, and then do totally the opposite to put it back in there. And you'll see that where the O-rings go, there's a little recess. So as we put the O-rings down, they'll sit in there and hopefully not move. You may want to put a little bit of petroleum gel, a little bit of grease, just so they stick themselves in position as you fiddle around with the crossover, but then we lower it back down. Just another little tip there, guys. Notice when I took the crossover out, a little bit of crap and dirt had fallen down. So what I'm doing is I put the screws back in just so the rubbish wouldn't go down the threads, and then I've got some cotton buds or Q-tips, and just wet the tips of them in a little bit of diesel, and then I just put in the hole. So what I'm planning to do is then blow it out and flush all the rest of the stuff around there, and the Q-tips will stop the stuff from the dirt going down the fuel lines, and if any little bit does, it'll stick to the Q-tip that's got the diesel on it. So crossover here is a few years old, but there's a little bit of wear you see and pitting around where the O-rings will seal. So we're going to get a bit of emery cloth or some wet and dry on a flat surface and just machine that up, rub it back till it's smooth, and get rid of those wear marks so the O-ring won't leak again. So we're just going to put it in the reverse way that we took it out. And then we'll get the little pointer in there and just flick it around, and hopefully it will sit in position, and we go ahead and put the screws in. So as you can see, we got the first one put in there just with our magnetic screwdriver. If you're a little bit nervous, you could put a bit of tape around the end of it and just drop them in. But once you get them started, do the awkward ones first, and just put them in loosely until you get them all in location, and then tighten them up. Okay, so we just finished putting the screws in. We've nipped them all up. It's all looking good down there, and that's the easy way and the cheap way of fixing your fuel leak from your fuel crossovers from between your heads. So hopefully that's been of some help to you, and if you do see fuel leaking from your heads down the track, running along the block and out the back, check your crossovers. You might just have to change those few O-rings, and don't take anything else off the motor like I nearly did, but you can just change them like that.